Event planning can be incredibly rewarding, but it's a tough job that can take a toll on your mental health. By embracing positive psychology and human centered approaches, organizers can prioritize their wellness and truly thrive in their roles. Hi everyone, welcome to Eva Talk by 10 times. I'm your host, Sonia Agrawal, and today we are diving into a crucial topic: enhancing event planner wellness with human centric and positive psychology approaches. We'll explore how small changes can lead to big improvements in your well being. To help us unpack this important issue, I'm thrilled to welcome Joanna Lean, an event strategist with over 15 years of experience and a recognized wellness speaker. Hi, Joanna. Welcome to our
Hi.
podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And it's a pleasure to have you in our show. So let's begin this conversation. And for this, I'd like you to highlight something which is a kind of thing that event planners often face regarding challenges, wellness challenges, which is not very familiar outside the event industry. So, if you can share some of the specific challenges that event planners encounter and how a human centered approach can help address those challenges. If you could
Yeah,
throw a light on that.
of course. Yeah. So, yeah, as you touched upon, event planners do face many challenges. And I'll specifically talk about it from that human centric approach, positive psychology, as well as spirituality, because I bridge the gap between spirituality and the events industry. So I do bring a unique point of view when we're talking about wellness. So right now we are facing, and we have been facing so many challenges for event planner wellness, and we know that we've got tighter timelines, so that's increased pressure
Yes.
to deliver, right? And our budgets haven't grown; they've actually gone lower. So we've got shorter periods of lead time. So there's still that stress on us. And then on top of course, like logistical pressure and like time pressure, there's also this lack of acknowledgement and recognition when it even comes to the expertise of
Mm,
event planners and of event professionals. We are still seen as not an expertise, right? We're still seen amongst a lot of industry professionals, our clients, the corporate world as party planners, which to me like boggles my mind, because a lot of us are event strategists. A lot of us have certificates. We've gone to school. We've been in the industry for, 10, 15, 20 years. So to devalue our profession really doesn't help when we're facing challenges, and we're trying to sell ideas or concepts, or even bring in wellness or a human centric approach to your events. And then of course, event planners face so much burnout. A lot of companies are super understaffed, and then tag on the tighter timelines, and just like the constant demands of this fast paced job and career, can really lead to mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and energetic burnout. So how do we counterbalance some of these challenges? It's really about, from a human centric approach, I think it's twofold. I think the industry has a lot of work to do when we're talking about burnout prevention and wellness and all of that. But the individual, it's bringing in self responsibility to your own career path, your own health, which I mean, I feel in the last few years we're doing more of. But human centric to me is really about empathy, connection, vulnerability, support, meaning, purpose, and belonging, and really understanding that event planners obviously need to be treated with their expertise and valued, and not just productivity machines like everybody else. They really need to feel seen and heard and valued and respected. So that's sort of like one area, and really collaborating with their leaders, and leaders that are able to actively and compassionately listen to their needs, as opposed to just like, yeah, well, this is how it is.
That was a very good insight. Like you covered everything and gave us a very good overview of what challenges basically event planners encounter. So these are really very insightful points that you shared with us. And now I want to know like about the daily practices. What do you think are some of the actionable or positive psychology techniques that event planners can integrate to build resilience against stress and burnout, which you highlighted in your answer? Like they face stress, burnout due to high, tight deadlines and managing the budgets, venues, everything. Like there are so many works to deal with. So how they can manage their stress and burnout in this busy and hectic schedule?
Yeah. Excuse me. So, first, let me take a step back. Positive psychology, if people are unfamiliar with it, it's the study of thriving instead of surviving. So, when we look at traditional psychology very briefly, you are looking at your past, your triggers, your traumas, your unmet needs, which is very, very valuable. But as human beings, we need to counterbalance the negativity and that survival instinct that we all have within us in our brains with positivity and positive psychology. So I really use this framework of positive psychology to help individuals really boost their positivity so that they can counterbalance the stress, the negativity, and the burnout. So, a couple daily practices are, of course, and you've obviously heard it, as a gratitude practice. So, really taking and giving yourself time, space, and permission every single day to list things you are grateful for. That is going to take you away from a scarcity mindset, which is lack, to an abundance mindset, which is there's infinite possibilities. So that is a practice. Also, get to know what your positivity boosters are, right? So, a lot of times we are on autopilot, meaning that we have the same routine day in and day out, even when we don't like want to do it. So, as an example, one of my autopilots that I actively try to counterbalance is watching TV. I love watching TV. And I know a lot of you probably do too. There's so many amazing series and shows and things out there. But when it comes to our well being, um, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but we may not be choosing the right activity for what our bodies need. And so I have to actively remember that, like, okay, one of my autopilot activities, and it's been since I was a child, is ending the day. We make dinner, my fiance and I make dinner, and then we go and watch TV. But like, I don't want to watch TV every single night, right? So I have to make an active decision to say to myself, and with him, sometimes we'll do these positivity boosters together. What other activities are going to help me de-stress, are going to also like light up my soul? I love art journaling. I love doing things that are creative. So really taking time to write a list of things that are your positivity boosters. And that doesn't have to necessarily like just be in the house, but like maybe it's, yeah, going for a nature walk, trying a new hobby, going to a dance class. Just getting yourself out of this autopilot is really going to help you with your resilience, with de-stressing yourself, and of course, like bringing in more light and joy and freedom in your life. The other thing that I want to mention is finding more meaning and purpose in your life. really connecting with your why. And although, I talk about positive psychology, I am also a numerologist. So I really love this framework of finding your life's path, your destiny, your soul's purpose to help you with your bigger why. Because when we're not connected to our bigger why, we can feel so lost and not have clarity and feel stuck. And that's part of feeling stress and burnout. Now, the other part to this equation that can be, a daily practice, is really looking at any of your challenges as opportunities. And you're probably like, okay, yeah, great. How can I do that? In positive psychology, that's called post-traumatic growth. So that's using your challenges and experiences as opportunities for that reflection, for learning, and fostering that mindset of growth and infinite possibilities rather than that lack and that scarcity and feeling defeated.
The ideas that you shared are really incredible, and like I think one gets involved in their favorite thing, then they forgets at least for some time about their current stress, and they are able to overcome that. So
Totally.
indulging in the activity that is interesting, that seems to be interesting for you, so this is something which one can go for,
Yeah.
definitely. And the
And then
autopilot, yeah, 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 please
No,
go ahead.
sorry. I was
Yeah.
going to say also, I want to remind people that like positivity is a practice. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity, because
Yes.
toxic positivity is also like you're negating your feelings, your real life challenges. And I'm not about that. I'm really about, being real, because we're all human and we all have challenges, but we also need to practice these positivity boosters and that we forget. So, as simple as writing a list of things you like to do, writing a list of what brings you joy and creativity, and like what lights you up, what makes you feel that sense of freedom. And also thinking about too, like what did you love to do as a child? So for me, I loved dancing and doing art. So when I, started my journey about 7 years ago and found positive psychology, I really connected with my inner child and asked her, what did you like to do as a child? Like, what brought you joy? So then I started doing dance classes. I just started, you know, putting playlists together and just dancing here. And I mean, fast forward to a few years ago, I became a dancing mindfulness facilitator. And now I bring groups together and do that. But it all started with the fact that I connected with what was like, I connected with my curiosity to my inner child.
You're sounding so exciting, so energetic. Like it's very good to hear you. And
Thank you.
so, if we want to add about self awareness and introspection in the same domain, like if you can throw a light on that, how it helps one to overcome their stress burnout, like self awareness and introspection, doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the big thing with self introspection and self awareness is one, giving yourself, and I'll say this like many times, time, space, and permission to do that first and foremost, because again, we are on autopilot a lot. We have, crazy busy lives, whether it's in our personal lives or in our professional lives. So, really carving out time for that introspection, because not everybody has this like natural intake to do that. So I would say like put like literally blocking in your calendar time for journaling, and that could be like in your morning practice, that could be before bed. So first of all, putting it in your calendar if that doesn't necessarily come naturally to you. The other thing I would say is start asking yourself really important questions, because once we start asking ourselves really important questions, we get really important answers. And we all have the answers within us. And a lot of times we're, seeking externally and outside of ourselves for answers. But again, if you give yourself, you carve out that space for yourself, you can come up with really important answers. So some of the like important and empowering questions that I asked, and I still ask myself and check in with myself, are who am I beyond my career? Because so often our self-worth is tied to the external. So that's job titles, how much we make, are we married or single, do we have a nice car, do we live in a nice neighborhood, kind of keeping up with the Joneses type thing. So who am I beyond my career? Am I living in alignment with my values? Do I know what my values are? What are my values? Um, what are my true needs and how can I meet them? So really taking this time to go over some of these questions. And even like when I started my journey, I was asking myself, like, why am I not happy?
Hmm.
Why don't I like or love myself? I dealt with a lot of low self-esteem and very little confidence, but on the outside nobody knew that. But I hadn't quite asked myself those important questions because I was just living a life of working and burnout and stress and you know and again, I was tying my self-worth to my productivity with the types of events that I was planning. So it's really important to take that time. Now, you can do that on your own or you can seek support. There's therapists, there's coaches, there's practitioners, going even as simple as going to group events and circles and workshops around whether it's mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, energy, seeing an energy healer. If you need guidance, which we all need guidance on, and that's okay, like go out and seek that support that's right for you so that you can really hone in on your self awareness. So, really asking yourself, again, those important questions to get important answers and know that it's a journey and that your questions are going to evolve. You yourself are going to evolve and your answers are going to evolve.
Yeah, so like self awareness is something which can really make a difference. That is something which one can practice on a daily basis. The journaling part you mentioned, the introspection that one can do on a daily basis to know his or her strength and work accordingly. And as you mentioned about the supportive part,
Yeah.
like going for support. So if we look for the support part, what do you think? How can leaders in event planning create spaces where planners can feel safe to express their challenges and seek support?
Yeah, I think it's so funny because a lot of people right now, it's like a buzzword to be like, "Oh, this is a safe space." But like and then not actually provide a safe space. And something that I've learned is that nobody can determine what a safe space is. So that leader can't necessarily say like this is a safe space because you don't know that person's experience, their background, what triggers them. And we all have a self responsibility to our own needs and to our own safety. So I want to just like put that out there that although you might have the intention that this is a safe space, you don't know that person, like their history, their wellness, their stress, all of that. So I think we got to dig a bit deeper into this like safe space kind of buzzword right now. But, what a leader can do is compassionately and actively listen, what their staff needs, um, also modeling vulnerability. So sharing their own struggles to really like foster that trust, so that your staff can feel like you are with them as opposed to against them.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course like providing resources, um, offering, and I know a lot of companies do this, offering, mental health tools, mentorship, um, what other resources can you support? And obviously, like regular check-ins, open dialogue with your team members can really build more supportive environments. And I mean, you as a leader doing your own self-awareness and wellness checks, and how are you showing up, like what are your triggers, right? Like so a lot, I really believe that all of us needs to do the inner work, and that's why like I'm so passionate about bringing both spirituality and positive psychology and everything that I bring to the events industry, to harmonizing the way that we work, so we can have better work experiences.
So this is a kind of collective approach, I think. If we
Yes,
get that,
definitely.
that works well. So that was a really very good point that you mentioned here. And before we wrap this conversation, Jana, like with today's growing emphasis on wellness, what positive impact do you think this could have on the future culture of the event planning industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I've mentioned, it is like it is a collective approach, and that we all, whether you're a leader or a planner or wherever you fall into the event space, that we all really need to be doing this work on the individual level. So really, as we mentioned before, that self-awareness, you know how can you feel empowered, and how can you work on your stress management and burnout, and where do you find meaning and purpose and belonging? So I think really looking at yourself, and then as an industry we definitely need to do better as an industry. But I do think that it's coming back to that holistic approach of looking at not only our mental health but our emotional health. Like, do we have an understanding of our emotions that we can then have a like grounded conversation with our leaders about how we're feeling? Something that I teach my clients is about our emotions, and positive emotions, of course, um, but that our emotions either can spiral up or spiral down, and they're micro moments. And then there's our feelings, and our feelings are the stories behind the emotions. So really having on both kind of levels that, like, yes, we're in our workplace, but we are all human. And within that, we have our emotional health. And I think we're all kind of walking around, a lot of us are walking around with blinders on, and that like we're separating, although I think we've gotten a lot better in the last couple years, but there still seems to be this like a little bit of this separation, with the emotional well-being of not only ourselves but our staff, and really understanding us as what motivates us. Something else that I teach is cyclical living. So that's anybody with a menstrual cycle, but this isn't whether you're a man or a woman, but no matter who, like we have to understand our energetic cycles to really show up as our authentic selves. So I think the future of wellness for the event planning industry, in my opinion, is really again bridging the gap between spirituality. So what is your bigger why in this industry, and how can you show up as authentically, as full, like your cup full, to bring like your best self to to your events and to your team and your colleagues, so that we can actually like work more collaboratively, work more collectively for the greater good. So I think, yeah, the future of wellness and event planning is, I would say, that self discovery, that self knowledge, that empowerment, using your voice, standing up for yourself, building confidence, setting boundaries, protecting your energy, and then what outside of your event planning life do lights you up? Again, I talked about positivity boosters, and it seems so simple, yet a lot of us don't do it. So coming back to, what is your awe and wonder that, let's say, you had as a child, that you can bring that curiosity, that openness, that, like, joie de vivre to yourself and then the event planning industry.
So, if we summarize, basically, prioritizing wellness is a necessity, like in every other field, in event planning too. So, the
Oh,
more
yes,
we invest in
definitely.
today, and the brighter the future of this industry will be. And it applies
Yes,
to every field, every field. So,
yes.
thank you so much, Joanna, for sharing your valuable insights with us. And I'm sure our
Oh,
listeners
thank you so much for
found this
having me.
found this discussion inspiring and empowering. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in our next episode. Thanks, Joanna.